Peter, in the last podcast, we were kind of left with that moment where Jesus is waiting for that woman at the well to come up, and we talked about that patience that he must have had waiting for her, but also him knowing that she was going to come in that dark place of all the husbands she had, all that baggage she was carrying, and there he is sitting there, and they encounter one another. Take us from there.
We live in a society, we want to see change happen instantaneously. And we want to see how your life can be transformed instantaneously. We live in everything that we know. We don't have any more patience for anything. I mean, if you're trying to text and the text is not going, you're frustrated, you want to throw the phone on the ground and you get so upset. There were days you could not even text, my friend. There were days that you had to go to your house to make a phone call, right? And we moved where we can take our phone in our hands and still be frustrated. What a selfish or thankful for time. People just are not thankful for time.
Right.
And I think we lost the art of waiting on people's lives to be transformed. We want people's life to be transformed. That's why I think I feel hard to say this, but a lot of people take pills to get that instant gratification or peace, whatever it may be. And some do need it. I'm not against taking medications and all that. I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking to people that instantly want to calm themselves down. There are a lot of over-the-counter drugs. They have everything instantaneously. And I think in this story, in this passage, the Lord is teaching the leaders that how much you need to have patience, knowing this person's life is a messed up life. Nobody would wait for that. And you imagine the Lord, the Son of the living God, is waiting patiently for someone whose life is completely out. The past is so bad that nobody would wait for her. That's why the community did not wait for her. But I want to tell you, the Lord waits for you. Isn't it marvelous? People don't wait on you, but God will wait for you to come. And so you see, patience is there. We're moving to a scene where we understand that it's so hard for people to wait. And I know that you have done a lot of ministry with people one-on-one. You do that. I want to ask, there are times in our journey that what's the most difficult thing when you wait for a person? One thing, what's the most difficult part in waiting?
When I'm waiting for someone, I just think of that idea of praying for someone to come to know God, right? And what's so difficult for me is I want them to get it so badly, to get this peace and this change. And then you get to see and almost celebrate with God that this thing has happened. For me, that's the hardest part as we're talking about the idea of somebody coming to faith. Patience in general. Now, you know me. I'm A personality. Let's get it done. Let's move on it. And in that, though, that patience, what has become the reward of that patience is the understanding I don't have to redo it. I don't have to think twice. And that if and when God moves in that moment, it's of Him and it's not of me, right? And that's been a learning lesson. I grew up, I told somebody yesterday, I grew up with this sign behind my head at the kitchen table. It said, pray to God, but row towards shore. Right? Which is that understanding that you have a responsibility, right? There is a responsibility. We pray to God. But if you pray to God, He's got it, right? And yeah, I got to do the next right thing in front of me, but that's not a life verse.
Yes.
Jesus didn't say that, right? He said, pray to God and follow Him. And it's taken, I think, maturity in the faith to kind of get to that place where you can just sit.
So what would you say to some of the leaders and the pastors when they're working with people they don't see a change and in a person they're investing in? Again, the word investing and all these things are such a westernized world for us. We always think when we give an investment, there's a term we can use it, I'm not against it, but we want to see the harvest happen right away. But sometimes it takes 10, 15 years. You've seen those things happen. What's the hard thing? What would you say to a leader, a pastor, nothing is happening. The guy is the same yet, or the girl is the same that way.
Well, one of the things I learned through the patience process, right, is that God has to move them, right?
Mhm.
I can't make someone move in their growth pattern, right? I can encourage them, I can point out the things they need to change, but they have to be willing. And if they're not willing, I can't make that happen. That doesn't mean I say, well, we're no longer friends, or I'm no longer going to invest in you. It just means until you go ahead and make those decisions that you want to move forward, I can't do it for you. And so then I have to allocate as you talked about, investing time, talent, resources. I have to now minimize that until you're ready to move your next step. I can tell you 1,000 things, but if you don't move on them, well then God says very clearly, right? That whole story, if they didn't receive the message, wipe the dirt off of the town and move on to the next one, right? And I think that's really important for us as pastors, but also as leaders, to be able to recognize, okay, are they ready to take on the leadership gift? And if they're not, that's okay. It's not of me. There are plenty of people who will never be big leaders. They'll be great number 2s or number 3s or whatever it's going to be. But if I'm going to be the leader and I'm going to be patient, well, then I have to be patient that God said that's not the one I'm calling you to go give your gifts away. That's not the one who I have you sitting at the well waiting for.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's a good way that you said, the Lord has to do the work. Yeah, you start rowing, but the Lord has to do the work. The winds could be against you, the storm could come,
Right.
whatever could happen.
Right.
But unless the Lord's hand is on you, nothing is going to happen. I think there's a quote in the Asian culture, they say the fruit tastes better when it ripens on the tree.
Wow.
And I'm trying to give a little literal translation for that. The fruit will taste better when it ripens on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a forced ripening.
Right.
You want a real life to happen, leave it in the hands of God, but you make sure you water the plant.
Right. And He will ripen the fruit.
Yes.
He will. I mean, we are all been placed here. Once you've met Him, or you're growing in your leadership role, it takes time. And I think that's really hard for younger leaders especially to recognize, you know what, you haven't ripened yet. I know you think you're ripe, you might have the right shape, you might have the right color, you might have everything, but you haven't ripened yet, right?
Yes.
And there is that place in patience.
Because everything else is instantaneous.
Right.
Everything in our culture is so fast, so quick, and it's so irritating when things don't go our way. We're wondering why. But I think there's a timing of the Lord, and this is where many people get discouraged. But I think if we are going to help people, leaders especially, and pastors especially, they need to have a lot of patience to work with people. And I think Jesus is demonstrating that He's waiting for that one person. Amazing story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here's a man who preaches to thousands. Thousands are drawn. People come to listen to him. They run to listen to him. They leave their homes, follow him. But here just pauses for one person whose life is totally messed up, and he says, that life can change.
What a great encouragement that is today, right? That He will wait for that one person.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear the next one of these podcasts. So we'll be back in touch next week.
Always ready for the encouragement.
All right.